What is up, guys? JT Anime and Nerd here, bringing you all that nerdy goodness. Today I'm doing something a bit different, and that's a movie concept video in celebration for Saw X. This concept is going to be quick and summary, mainly because this was kind of a last minute video, so I haven't really gotten the opportunity to work out all the details yet. But uh, in light of this summary video, I'm probably gonna make a more detailed video down the line. But I'll gladly do my best to summarize just exactly what exactly the story is, what kind of traps will be used, and what the setting is going to be. The story concept is actually inspired by the movie called The Collector, which is why for this movie it's going to be set up in a lone countryside house. Also, I know that The Collector was pretty much partly inspired by Saw, uh, but but of course, we've never really seen i- in Jigsaw use his own kind of traps in a house like that, so that's what you're getting. Discretion is advised as sensitive topics will be discussed in this video. This is a concept on a horror movie after all. Well, now when it comes to the dates in the timeline, a I don't want to make that a big confusing thing. The best thing I loved about the first Saw movie is that it didn't complicate the timeline as much as the sequels did. You didn't ha you didn't completely have to know the exact time and date that this happened, and also gonna make sure that the story of both past and present doesn't stray too far from each other. So without further ado, let's get into the movie concept, beginning with its setting. The story would revolve around a dysfunctional family reuniting in the wake of a relative's death, but are then thrust into a game that would decide their fate by a famous killer they thought to only be a ghost story at this point in time. The story begins with the awakening of a boy named Jason Sawyer, waking up in a dingy and almost condemned looking living room. However, the boy calls out to his mom and dad, as well as names such as Keith and Sally, who we assume to be his siblings. Jason's attention is then taken aback by the living room's old style dial TV he turning on, introducing none other than the Billy puppet, still voiced by Tobin Bell, aka John Kramer slash Jigsaw. Jigsaw then states he wants to play a game, as usual, stating that throughout the house is a series of traps and trials. Jigsaw also states that Jason will encounter er, familiar and fresh faces during his trial, and that he only has 5 hours till dawn to win the game, or a makeshift bomb will go off, destroying the building and killing everyone in it. Jigsaw states that each family member can be seen in one of four rooms: the kitchen, in the bedroom, the bathroom, and the attic, being told all these very same instructions, and that the goal is to reach the cellar exit in the basement, but can't enter until they find 5 keys in total to play what Jigsaw refers to as the final game. After the clock begins and a buzzer sounds, Jason has a flashback of the last happy memory with his family on Thanksgiving, when and he was just 5 years old. When Jason's father, Arnold Sawyer, was told via phone call that the factory he's worked at for 20 years is getting shut down, making him distraught. Jason's mom, Helen, comforts Arnold, telling him everything is going to be okay, with a 5-year old Jason looking hopeful. Back in the present, Jason's mom and dad, Arnold and Helen, exit their respective rooms, while Jason's older brother Keith and younger sister Sally also exit their respective rooms. Meeting up with each other, the game can finally begin. From here I'll summarize the points that will be important to the story, such as character stories, game rules, and traps. Since when it comes to the full story, like I said, I'm probably going to do separate videos on that because it would make this video too long. The order of games goes as follows, and that is Sally, Keith, Helen, Arnold, and Jason. Sally's game would take place in the bedroom to symbolize her power over men as a seductive person. Sally's backstory would reveal that she used up the college loan her family scrambled for just to live a more ritzy lifestyle. a lifestyle she felt she was owed due to her resentment toward her family's financial struggle after Arnold was laid off from the only place he's ever been known to work at. It also didn't help that Sally was incredibly spoiled by Arnold, who favored her over his sons. Sally would be forced to save two of her current fiancés, both whom she's been having affairs with, just to seduce them out of their money, which were gained through corrupt means. The game would have Sally have to sacrifice her attractive looks in order for her and her fiancés to survive, as Sally had to bob for her key within an acid-proof apple within a vat of acid that would forever scar her face after contact. If Sally's time runs out, then a sprinkler system in the ceiling would rain down acid on her, killing her and her fiance slowly. At first, Sally was too hesitant, more worried about her future without her attractiveness than the lives of the men she tricked. Arnold would begin to show his more aggressive side, pressuring and threatening Sally to bob for the apples, which she ultimately loses due to her looking at herself in a mirror above the vat of acid, causing her to have a mental breakdown at the mere sight of her disfigured face, which wastes her time, leading Arnold to retrieve the key himself elf after the game. During this game, we would see a flashback of Jason's family struggle to even eat after Arnold lost his job, leading Sally to steal to get what she wants. Helen tries to impose her morality onto Sally that stealing is wrong, but Sally retaliates, it's saying that she wouldn't have to steal if Arnold would just work harder, treating him like he's purposely keeping them poor. This would lead Helen to slap an 11-year-old Sally, which would cement Sally's hatred for her family for all time, leading to her rebellious and cold-hearted personality. Now, Keith's game would be unique with a new trap called the Blood Board, which is not what you'd expect, as it's a computer keyboard that's meant to stab through your fingers with needles that are meant to fill a nearby blood bag halfway before or time runs out. Jigsaw would reveal that Keith, who is an accountant, has been embezzling money and causing innocent lives to suffer because of it, putting all of the money into drugs and pleasurable company. The goal of the game is to fill the nearby blood bag halfway in by typing up a confession, as well as the specific skills he used to embezzle the money digitally, and send it to the local bank so it can be returned to its rightful owners. In the end, Keith would succeed, but lose so much blood that he would need to be treated by his family, to which Arnold dismisses out of all of them. We then get a flashback to Keith's childhood, having a fear of a new local serial killer simply known as the Hillside Butcher. But Helen tries to comfort Keith only for Arnold to storm in drunk and demand that Helen come to the bedroom. Before leaving, however, Arnold would instill a lesson in Keith, despite his dismissal of his boys, and remind Keith that the only person you can rely on is yourself, and that relying on others, including your own mother, makes you destined to be eaten by the wolves. There would then be flashes of kids picking on him and Jason for being the poorest kids in town, leading Keith to finally snap and nearly send a kid to the hospital, forever cementing his father's philosophy into himself. This would ultimately lead him to cold-heartedly embezzle money without caring who gets hurt in the process, as he's only in it for himself now. Helen's game would ultimately have her face a huge part of her past in the form of a woman named Elaine, someone Arnold had an affair with during the family's life crisis after the factory shut down. Helen would be placed in an arena-style trap called the Conveyor Belt, where she would have to take on the unknown woman whose hands are tied tied behind her back, and who's wearing a spiked caged helmet around her head. The only weapon Helen would be given is a hunting knife, one similar to the one from the movie Scream. With ease, Helen would kill the woman with rage and anger, stabbing her multiple times and allowing the woman to be crushed by the shredder that the conveyor belt leads to on each ends. At the end of this game, we would see a flashback of Helen, who was actually physically and mentally abused by Arnold after he went into a downward spiral after losing the only job in the world he knew how to do. As on the day he was laid off, he began to aggressively complain, and when Helen tried to talk some sense into him wholeheartedly, he struck her, beginning a dark cycle of hate within the Sawyer family. This would also lead Helen down a path of her own resentment toward her family, as one day when Jason wouldn't stop crying after having a nightmare about the hillside butcher, she envisioned herself strangling him, awakening something dark within her mind that she would be fighting for a long time. Before leaving in the room where Helen's game happened, however, Jason would end up finding a record order on the side of Helen's opponent end of the conveyor belt. He then listened to it, but as soon as we hear hear John Kramer's voice say, "Hello, Elaine," we cut to continuing the rest of the story, not yet knowing what was on the record. Arnold's game would him have to choose between himself and his family, as the setting is similar to his workstation at the factory. Arnold's job is to control a jigsaw-esque robot in order to extract this key from the factory. His owner, David, who is responsible for putting Arnold and all the workers at the factory out of work just to save some money. Arnold would have no issue in doing this. In fact, he reveled in making his boss suffer greatly by basically playing a messed up version of Operation with his boss as the body. During the game, we would see a flashback of Arnold's childhood, as his father was full-blown abusive to his mother where he almost killed her. But Arnold would kill his father to protect her, leading to Arnold's mother to bury his father's body. Arnold would always fear becoming his father, or with his mother saying that he would never be like him, which of course turned out not to be true. After collecting 4 keys, the family goes back to the living room for Jason's game, who in flashbacks has been shown to be a good person unlike the rest of the family. By this time, Keith would also regain consciousness. Jigsaw returns on the TV screen and tells Jason that his key has always been close, as Jigsaw reveals that the key is in his appendix region, with Jason coming to find a scar where his appendix should be. He also making Jason think how generic this game is when and all the other games have been pretty much symbolism. Jason has never felt great pain, as he has always been careful in life, but after grabbing the knife, Arnold and Keith demand Jason take it like a man. As Jason tries to convince Arnold and Keith to go easy on him, Helen decides to knock Jason out and cut into him to get the 5th key, leaving Jason behind to bleed out on the floor. After getting into the basement, Arnold, Keith, and Helen would come down in preparation for the final game. Jigsaw on a nearby TV screen would reveal that this final game would be a deadly game of truth or dare, with those who lie to suffer death by electric chair, which is triggered by a lie detector installed in the chair. There is only 30 minutes before the bomb goes off. To everyone's surprise, Jason would make his way down to strap himself into one of the chairs, as everyone has to take turns. Jason would pass the test, as would Helen after being revealed to be the true identity of none other than the hillside butcher, as Jason questioned her during her turn. And that she Helen explains that this was due to Arnold's abusive nature, causing her to resent and her family to a point where she craved blood, but decided to take her bloodlust out on Arnold's mistresses and prostitutes. When the family starts pressuring Arnold to get in the chair, however, he starts getting defensive and violent, letting his impulsive, destructive, and manipulative nature take over, with this being the breaking point of the family throughout the whole game. Having enough of Arnold's physical and mental abuse, Helen attempts to kill Arnold, leading to a bloody husband and wife brawl. In the end, Jason would be forced to kill Arnold, the core reason for the family falling apart. However, this wasn't out of trying to save his mother. He would give in to his resentment and hatred of his family for the first time ever. Due to this action, Helen had a hard time differentiating Jason from Arnold, who started out as a as a good person, but turned into a monster in the end with just one deciding choice. Just then, however, Keith attempts to murder Jason, not wanting any witnesses to know about his embezzling, as he reveals that he faked his confession enough to fool Jigsaw. Before Before being able to kill Jason, Keith would be run through by Helen, his own mother, wanting to at least use her serial killing skills to save someone. After murdering her own child, she felt no other way to get away from the pain than to take her own life via a slit throat, leaving Jason alone to his fate. As the timer hits zero and Keith is bleeding out on the floor, however, still revealed to be alive, the makeshift shift bomb was revealed to be a lie, and a safe marked as loser is presented to Jason and in Keith. Using the key on top of the safe, Jason would open the safe to reveal another classic recorder from the first Saw movie. In its epic fashion, the signature theme plays, and we hear Jigsaw's voice tell the family that if they're listening to this tape, then they've lost the game. Jigsaw goes on to talk about how this game was meant to redeem the family, but they let their selfishness and unappreciation of the lives of others get at the better of them. Jigsaw's voice would then change, revealing that the Jigsaw that put this family through hell was actually none other than Jason himself, who secretly harbored his own resentment toward his family and turns to show Keith a big smile on his face, as he wanted to just make his family the way they were again, but ultimately failed. It turned out that Jason's grandfather, the person who died and brought the family back together, was a survivor of one of John Kramer's previous games, and was obsessed with him ever since, recreating some of his traps. After studying John Kramer, Jason saw this as an opportunity to show his family the error of their ways, wanting to prove that the family could still be put back together. As behind the scenes, he found out about each and every one of their sins, including his mother's serial killing obsession. However, the sad reality was that Arnold would not surrender his aggressive mentality, leading to the family's loss. But the biggest loss would be Jason's, as he reveals that he was even willing to surrender to the rules of the game, giving up his own life if it meant that his family would learn their lessons in the end. And, and but Jason's also ashamed of himself because in the end he gave in to his resentment in one way or another, and to make himself happy, he ended up killing his father and feeling good about it. Hence why Jason would share their fate in an attempt to be fair. Once thoughts and hatred take over, the door was meant to shut forever, feeling that the world would be safer without their family, who all gave in to their resentment and hatred. Jason would also reveal that Jason himself took a drug that would wipe his memory of the plan to make things fair, but the strike that Helen landed on his head helped him get his memories back, and that now they would only need to wait for the sweet release of death by fire due to one final timed trap. As the doors close and the house lights aflame, Keith screams in horror as the screen goes pitch black, cementing Jason and Keith's blazing fate. Game over. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and put down in the comment section below on what you thought of this video. Also, be sure to check out my new merch store linked in the description below and in the pinned comment and section. With all that said and done, I'm JT Anime, and I'll check you guys later.